Well, hello, creatives, community, and kind folks. Welcome to RPG with DBJ. I'm your host, DBJ, and today is Future Friday. So, imagine you're a lawyer in the inner system, and your uh, your sleep cycles have been modified. You don't need much sleep because you need to be able to study. Your memory of the legal system is near perfect with access to a database and a search function that is perfect. Your even your skin tone is a nice honey cinnamon that your muse, as you've logged into the web, has realized that in this season it is the perfect shade that subtly draws the eye to your skin. Even your eyes are a perfect navy blue color, the color of this season as well. Your hair is perfectly coiffed. Your outfit is made of a synthetic material that only 3 months ago was perfected, making it both smooth and water resistant, yet appealing to the eye. And then you look over at your colleagues, and they're looking at you strangely, and you say, "What? Why? What's going on?" And you quickly blink your eyes as you hit a news feed when, oh, that navy blue color for your eyes. Now it's more like a powder blue, and they think you're not quite up to stuff in the legal field, right? Or let's go out into the outer system. You're in a habitat orbiting Neptune. You've got instead of your traditional feet, you've got hands where your feet should be, much like orangutans, gorillas, and chimpanzees. Of course, you need that for the zero G environment you live in. You have nictating membranes on your eyes. Your nose is nearly non-existent, just simple slits able to open and close, sealing your body off in case the oxygen levels drop. Your skin is both a nearly ivory, pasty white, even, so that allows almost albino, so you can allow as much vitamin D in from the sun, and then in a moment's notice, with just a thought, more reactive than anything, your skin can turn like a midnight black, flooding your body with melanin, protecting you from UV rays. But it wasn't too long ago you visited a habitat nearby, some kind of isoclade group, and you realized that just with a blink of the eye, you logged into their system, and flashing in front of your retinal pattern is that they're starting to inject members of their people with some kind of modifier to their bodies, like solar wings that they're going to attach to the shoulders of the members of their group. And you're wondering, will I need that to live out here? And you realize they're thinking about moving further out into the Oort cloud, maybe even Alpha Centauri. You're like, am I going to get left behind? So I say all that to say this: Perfection Incorporated. What do we think of as perfection? Where do we go in a sci-fi transhumanist world? Perfection. So for those who do not know, this channel is related to tabletop RPGs, most notably like Eclipse Phase, Altered Carbon, even the Expanse, and not to place other transhumanist type of tabletop RPGs out there. We're also related to science fiction, and so we're going to just come up with some ideas. I thought we would come up with some of these ideas for our science fiction gaming, and the reason why I picked Perfection Incorporated in a slight way, it relates to a discussion we were having the rest of this week. Monday through Friday, we do go live at 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for myself in my time zone, and we were talking about the monk class from Dungeons and Dragons, and I was like, what does that look like in the future? So I thought I'd just do a little permutation on it and talk about perfection and what does perfection mean. And perfection is different. Hey there, Andres. Perfection is different for everyone, depending on the physical location you are in, the social aspect, the from outside influences, and then of course the the unmeasurable, ephemeral, spiritual part of perfection that all of us are trying to achieve. And of course, since the beginning of time, um, whenever anyone wanted to achieve any kind of status, being able to control when and how someone else gains perfection, how it's measured, is how other people were able to achieve their own their own power in the world. Some would even say that cults today, the Enlightenment cults of Nexium or Scientology and so on, Branch Davidians and etc., are related very much to perfection. So we're going to talk about perfection, and we're in no small part, we're going to talk about all the terrible things that happen when people try to achieve perfection, and what does it look like in the game, and come up with plenty of story ideas when it comes to perfection. So, um, um, our great and attentive and oh so reliable moderator Tesla Ranger has given us the TV trope of perfection. Of course, going over to tvtropes.org, and perfection is addictive, and I cannot agree more. Whether it's in our modern context, whether it's dieting, exercising, looking the semi-flexible method in which we measure perfection, and how much of a thin razor we measure perfection, whether it's facial structures, body type, where people live, how they live, what they eat, language that is used, hairstyles, and all those kind of things, fashion, etc. But since we're talking transhumanism and posthumanism, we're going to more or less focus on the internal, the body, the shape of the body, and even some of the mental structures and things like that. So, for and this is pretty short. I'm going to read this out. Perfection is addictive. The TV trope. Many people, and of course, many people is this ambiguous number, spend significant portions of their lives trying to get things just right. But in reality, perfection is impossible, right? People who experience this trope may wish it was. When you experience something of the highest possible standards, like eating impossibly delicious food, the amount of happiness you feel is immeasurable. There are no pleasures in the world that could possibly compare to what you're feeling in that moment. Unfortunately, this tends to have the side effect of making everything else incredibly disappointing in comparison, often resulting in the inability to enjoy the things in life that you were once accustomed to. In the worst cases, those who go through this may end up going insane or committing suicide, either out of despair or due to being done with life. In cases where this is played for laughs, expect some black humor, up to and including suicide as comedy. And I mentioned before the show that you don't often see those movies, but there was a period of time where suicide as comedy was a movie trope, a movie style. In other cases, the same situation might be played for drama. Subtropes of these things a man was not meant to know, and compare Lotus Eater Machine. Also see tough act to follow when making an outstanding work will make people sorely disappointed with any future work unable to one up said predecessor. Yeah, the Gribel. I like that. Yeah. Oh yeah. As a matter of fact, in our 111 movie, TV, intellectual property ranking thing today, it's like if a movie or some kind of IP isn't perfect, and if it's either has to be a 10, you or people around you have to all agree that it is a 10, or it's a 1. Like there is no nuance or anything. Like there's plenty of my favorite movies that are like hover between the 7 and 9 range. If I had to give it a number ranking, there's plenty of number 7s that I'm like, oh, let me put that on. I consider, like if I have to go with the Marvel universe, like I would consider most of the Ant-Man movies, the two Ant-Man movies, to be like the between the 7 and 9 range or whatever. Maybe even bump down into the sixes that I enjoy watching. And some people were like, no, it's got to be a 10. Yeah, exactly. Andrew Martin says, I love all the Godzilla movies. They are hardly a six sometimes. Oh yes. Oh yes. So some of the things that we know they're terrible are some of my favorite things. There's some, I mean, absolutely horrible things. And I go, yeah, I kind of like that. Now sometimes it's a car crash. Like I like watching the thing happen that's so terrible, and you just sit there in amazement and watch it. But there's plenty of people there's whole forums dedicated to the perfection of, or the absolute horrible destruction of said thing. And I think in a far future world of transhumanism and virtual reality and measurements that are absolutely razor thin, I think that could make or break someone pretty easily. You know, even even today, I don't know if you guys are young enough, but there was a period of time long before tattoos were accepted. There was a period of time where a man with a piercing in his ear was like, oh, you didn't even do that. And it depended on what ear was pierced in. And, and then all of a sudden tattoos became, and it was like, well, you can't have an office job if you have a tattoo, especially one that you can see. And what's going on? Hair length was a big deal long before my time. It was the hippie culture. Like you didn't grow your hair long. What is it? Touching your ears? That was unthinkable. Women wearing a skirt that went above a certain level, and I mean, people would judge each other on the slightest nuances. And heck, even today, there is a there I dare say there is even a skin tone um, slider that goes down both levels, both extremely pale and extremely dark. That the when comparing when you start comparing the majority of society, and you start mixing the colors into the batch of the oil colors, and you start mixing them together, that the people that run out way out there on the outliers tend to be looked at less mm, um, less I'm going to say appropriately in terms of the norm when it comes to particular social statuses, right? Individuals, many of us that have body features that are start bumping up against the extremes. Individuals that are extremely short, heading towards, I know it's the inappropriate word to say, but dwarvism. People who are extremely tall, obesity, uh, anorexia. Like there are, and when I say all these things, I don't mean to say that the individuals that I'm enabling. I'm just saying as a measurement, when someone, let's say someone is supposed to be a computer programmer or talk on the phones, or um, there nothing about their physical nature matters about the job, but someone who is extremely dark, African, or extremely pale with yeah, we make measurements on that socially. And yeah, when in the future, if you could modulate those things, uh, you could remove that barrier out of your life. Would you? How much? How much would it cost to do so? Well, no, no, let me take that back. What would you pay to remove that barrier, even if that barrier is a 2% gives you a 2% disadvantage over the next person? What would happen? Andrews Martin says, as long as there is some difference, the human race is going to find something about that to classify it as good or bad, even the most stupid things. I cannot agree with you more there, dude. Yeah, I mean, we eye color, or let's go even further. There are things that people consider advantages that have nothing to do with anything. Eye color is one of those examples, right? Oh, look at that little baby! It's got the most perfectly beautiful blue eyes and piercing. Oh, and it's just like, oh, okay, but that doesn't make someone have a great personality or become intelligent or makes them a positive member of society. But it's a thing, right? Like, oh, that person's got great bone structure. They should be a spokesperson for my company. Why? Because they can read and speak. Like, so you're absolutely right. But then, un- when one of the horrors, body horrors of transhumanism that I love to think about is, if you could eliminate these micro barriers to your life, right? Um, like whether it's eye color or hair hair features, like, oh, I've got a cowlick in my forehead, or I'm balding, or my I wish I was 3 centimeters taller, or my weight was perfect or something. you know my skin tone, I wish it was far more even. I wish my eyelashes were all these little crazy things. We'd already know people go to many lengths to go have uh, a plastic surgery to adjust their bodies, to exercise. But I wonder, would there be an elimination in a particular part of a culture to say, eliminate very bulbous, large lips that a portion of the African culture has? Would there be people who would eliminate maybe a thinner, let's go the opposite direction, a thinner, more straight lined mouth system, to only have a bulbous, round, perfectly pinked sized lips, when in your family line, that's just a genetic trait? Like, would people remove their race from existence even to accommodate themselves to this extraneous, nebulous measurement of what people consider to be perfection or not? Would brown eye color disappear out of a society or a habitat or something because everyone's looking for the perfect shade of blue or cerulean or uh, azure or lapis lazuli or something like turquoise, or constantly trying to turn the dial of the perfect blue eye? And when you see these people, it's like, from the outside you look at them and it's like everybody looks the same. Like, what the hell's going on? Yet people were like, no, my skin color is cinnamon and I need to change it to terracotta. And you're just like, why? There's no need for that. Yeah, Andrews Martin says, it's funny, the only perfection that comes to mind is physical one. Imagine a sort of mental manipulation that makes people think and feel right. Yeah, perfection. Like, we okay, in our modern society, we have drugs that make people think they feel a certain way. Coffee and cigarettes are a form of that, right? Hey, I can't get my day started unless I've had my third cup of coffee. Energy drinks are a good form of that as well, right? Someone slipped in the energy drink as a substitute. Red Bull gives you wings, right? So, but in with technology, you could go far further than that. With virtual reality or simulated stimulation, plugging yourself into an artificial realm that gives you a sense of what it means to be perfect. In transhumanist gaming, we have ourselves a cortical stack. How much would you pay to find a body that you could slip your cortical stack into, that is the epitome of perfection? And then, because the brain is just data, and you can download, basically, if you have a cortical stack, it's basically a a um, a black box of your mindset. maybe someone somewhere, people are saying, hey, you know what you should do? You should modify your brain. It's just data. How about you know what? We are culturally, we're deleting the bad things in our memory and only accentuating the good things so we can feel good. You should try it. You're like, I mean, the bad things in my life, while traumatic, kind of made me who I am. Like, why would I do that? And you're like, huh? What are you saying? It's wrong? You're like, no, I'm just, it's just not for me. I'm like, well, you're not going to get anywhere if you're going to walk around with all that baggage in your brain, right? And you're like, what the wait? I just didn't. I guess I'm going to have to do that since everyone is doing it. And then where does humanity go when like you said, said A. Martin, like you said, mental manipulation that makes people think and feel right. Does that mean people start eliminating the bad things in life, like the traumas that people have gone through, or the weird the weird strange isms that activate the the dopamine hits that you get. And so people are walking around strangely with these joyous smiles on their face for no reason, and it's like in their eyes you can see they're suffering and in pain, but their bodies are like, they're like, hi, how are you? Hey, hey. Like the fake smiles people put on when you like visit certain travel locations or something, but you could tell they're deadbeat tired or whatnot. You get that server at a restaurant who's trying to put on a good face, but they just can't. And you're just like, you're smiling back at them, but you had a terrible day as well. And you're just putting on the pleasantries. But then you look around and everyone's acting that way all the time, to the point where like even there's like car wrecks and dangerous things or terrible things going on in people's lives. But they're like, everyone is just smiling in a strange way. Like, oh, I am so sorry you had a terrible accident. There is a bone protruding from your leg. Just sit back and relax. Just put a smile on your face while I take the bone and stick it back in your flesh or something. Like some strange reason where like, people are just so happy that it becomes hideously uncomfortable or something. That would be oh no, here we go, Gaster, getting a little squirrely, but go ahead. So I'm going to continue while you get your thoughts out. The the Also, who is it? So strange. Gaster says toothpaste is just shampoo for your teeth. Hmm. Hmm. That's true. Or if we put shampoo in our on our heads and soap on our bodies, are we just the teeth for something bigger? Haha. See, yeah. Are we just rubbing ourselves with toothpaste? So anyway, the the idea of who controls what perfection is becomes a power in and of itself, right? These are the people who are the movers and shakers in, like I mentioned before, in fashion, in exercise, in the media. Yes. The well, there goes one sleepless night of my 3-day week end off. Oh well, sorry about that, man. Thinking about it like, no, we're just toothpaste on our teeth of people. Uh, anyway, the people who are the movers and shakers, maybe even in a science fiction realm, we have flipped the script basically. Like your major athletes out there in the world, adrenal boosted, maxed out, steroided out, hyper reflexed individuals. Sure, they might be the icons. Maybe they aren't the epitome. It's the scientists that design them. Maybe the scientists become are much like the e-game athletes, the game players that are becoming these high-ranking, famous, video game players or scientists, and like a director of a movie becoming more famous than the individuals in the movie that they direct. It's the maybe the designers become in a far future world, in this transhuman world, they're the ones, because hey, if you get a body, you're either you're the body you're in manipulated by them, whether it's something far more detailed, not plastic surgery, but like steroidal injections, nanotechnology, implants, all that kind of stuff. Um, yeah. Oh no, no. Oh no, Gaster. We're talking about Perfection Incorporated. What, especially in a post-human or transhuman world, uh, what perfection is, how to achieve it, and who holds the reins. And I think these individuals, there might even be a new classification of these scientific superheroes. In our world, I suppose you could start classifying, the owners of Google, Amazon, PayPal, Tesla, all these individuals as the scientific epitomes, and have them surrounded by an entourage of like people who just are like are sycophants that want to become the the playthings of these individuals to become what perfection is supposed to be, plus a cult of people who just want to achieve just a little bit, just to grab just a little bit more perfect body shape of, whether I can stay awake just a half hour longer, to if my body height was just perfect, if my fat to muscle ratio was just was greater, if my bone structure was better, if I could run faster, farther, smarter, if my eyes could see further or see into the higher and lower ranges of the visual spectrum, way up into the infrared and ultraviolet or something, if I could hear things that are further away, higher and lower on the octave scale or something, if my voice was had intonation that was perfect, which I myself, most of us hate the sound of our own voices because we hear our own bodies do this reverberation inside of our own skulls that we don't normally hear on the outside. But I do feel like there's like a dead part in my voice, and if I could have the perfect voice, some people just have a, what is it, a je ne sais quoi, a charisma, and how do you attach a value to that? Now, Gaster says, he says, okay, enough squirreling. Yeah. Now, the idea of a corrupt corporation who makes biological engineering devices is pretty crazy and honestly sounds awesome. Oh, yeah. And mind you, this doesn't need to be reserved for major corporations, right? Of course, corporations are going to punch out the latest cybernetic or biological or nanotech implants that everyone should have. But you're also going to have the anarchists that are like, hey, you need to buck the system by being this other way. And of course, it's an equal and opposite effect, right? Everyone whose counterculture lives in a counterculture that in and of itself is its own culture. Um, um, Saggy pants as a fashion statement is one kind of thing in a particular culture, just like camouflage and flannel is a calling card for another culture. It's an identifier, and so I could see that moving into body structures and facial structures, and hey, being out in space, you better have that bouncer morph with the hands where your feet should be to live in zero G. Because if you don't, you're an outsider. Like, I can just tell you're an outsider because you didn't even make the choice to put hands where your feet are at. And you're like, I was born with these feet. I like my feet. My parents had these feet, and they're like, you need to get rid of that because yeah. And Gaster Two Soul says you're going to have your umbrella corporations, but you're also going to have some other factions for the PCs to join. Exactly, and um, much like today, Okay, I'm going to very generally describe two types of corporations. Okay, we have the unfeeling bureaucratic corporation that really has no face at the top. It's a machine that operates because it the machine is what it is. I'm going to mention. Uh, I'm going to randomly mention labels like IBM, Xerox, McDonald's, Nike. Like these are corporations where it has nothing to do with the person at the top. It's just a bunch of committee. It's just a machine. It's unfeeling and it punches out stuff that people absorb and take into their bodies or use as a as a device, and that's it. It's like utilitarian. But then we do have these I'm guess I'm gonna call them like guerrilla corporations, un unstructured corporations, young people, the wow, my brain just the Silicon Valley young person app startup corporation, worth hundreds of millions, billions of dollars, but they operate in the back of a van, running around. And to me, player characters could be in that form, right? Like where they are the Julian Assanges of the world trying to achieve what they consider perfection or destroy this flow, this overwhelming need for society to become perfect. And they might even be the opposite of perfection, right? Where they are trying to socially manipulate the memetics of the world and get viral ideas out there. Like, you don't need to be perfect. Stop trying to do this. You're going to kill yourself. Yeah, Gasper Two Soul says perhaps there's like this crazy underground group that uses cybernetics as an advantage to break through small back doors in like websites and stuff to spread their message. Yeah, and like the PCs, the player characters might be those guerrilla warfare, but the warfare is not a well, of course it probably turns physical, but um but not only does it become physical, it's a very social thing, injecting ideas into people that are almost laying mines for people. Yep, Gasper Two Soul says it's more like an internal battle throughout the story. Yeah, that would be pretty awesome. And even the player characters might even have to succumb to the ideals of perfection in order to navigate their way through this world. And even though they know in their hearts of hearts it's wrong. So in many ways, like a human walking around in a world full of vampires or something, right? Like maybe there's something out there that it that the player characters might be the underdogs in a habitat or something where everyone in the habitat is like a Superman. They're fast, strong, smart, can see, smell, and hear things from so far away. They can look at you and it's like they have like lie detection because they can see all the nuances on your micro facial features and moving and things. Like they have instant communication because they're all linked together and they all get the same joke and they all have the same strange eye color, and they stare at you because they only sleep for 2 hours a day and they barely do that. And whenever they eat, they use like 98% of the nutrients that they eat and have little body waste. And the PCs are like, I want to be like that. And the PC's like slap in the face, like, get your mindset together. This is terrible. And you're like, oh, that's right. We are natural born humans. Wow. Gasper Two Souls says, so far we've had genetically advanced soldiers turned into vampires, a dystopia future where technology results in magic. So a group of hacker anarchists doesn't sound really far out there. I don't think so at all. I think it sounds perfectly reasonable. And the important thing is who or what is controlling what people think is perfect. Andrews Martin talks about like says the only perfection that comes to mind is a physical one, but imagine sort of a mental manipulation where people think and feel right. It could be, yeah, like you're saying there, Gasper Two Souls, sort of like the question of who watches the Watchmen. It's, on one hand, you could, the cool thing is to realize, like, maybe there is a good reason for people to say, insert an implant in their head where everyone feels good. Maybe violence has dropped to near zero in the society, and judgment has started to reduce. It's the idea of children going to school in school uniforms. Why? Put everybody in school uniforms, less distraction, far more knowledge gets passed by. For good, whether you think it works or not, there's a reason for it. Put everyone in a uniform, great. We take away fashion statements and monetary values and social status, whether who's rich or poor or whatnot. Okay, so we take that away. What if a society decides to do that? They go, you know what, we're all going to dress the same, we want to all look the same, let's all get about the same hair color and hairstyle. Why? It's not because we're manipulated, it's because socially we want to all be collective, because we want to achieve a greater synergy with each other on purpose, and we want to recruit people into our organization. And the closer you get to the I'm going to supplant individuality to become closer to the group, the more we all in our modern context look at it like, that's kind of cultish, like, I don't want to be like that. But unfortunately, we do that anyway, right? I can judge someone else for joining the Branch Davidians, or what are these other suicide cults, the Nexium people and Scientology and all. But at the same time, if I'm standing on the street corner with the exact same pants sagging, or I'm wearing the exact same camouflage for no good reason in an urban setting with my other friends, it's like, yeah, I'm trying to fit in. And when you start living in big city regions where everyone exercises the exact same amount, and gets the same haircut and needs to go to the tanning salon because we all have to look like we're tanned, even though we don't live anywhere near the beach. And here we go with the Botox, and let's have a Botox party. And wow, wait, maybe in the future these people start having like morph parties where they start unveiling, so instead of parties where they're doing Tupperware or sexual devices, they start having morph parties, and everyone's like, "Ooh, that's the next season's great morph. I think we should all get that morph. It's got a great green skin tone to it, and it's going to all be the rage." And everyone's like, "Yeah, let's get." You know what? It makes the body feel smooth. It's got erogenous zones everywhere on it. It's like, yeah. Gaster Two Soul says, I think we need a drinking game for every time I mention a book or a graphic novel. Yeah, hey, listen, I'd be drunk if it came to mentioning every movie or TV show or something that's brought up, and Tesla would definitely be wasted based on all the TV tropes. So yeah, I think we need a drinking game. Anyway, Gaster Two Soul says, and that's where the problem goes. And that's where the problem goes. The problem of everyone being so different that chaos awakens to, complete stagnation of personality, and friggin' hell, stagnation of individuality. You know what? There is that battle between all of us, right? Like we crave individualism, and to be a complete individual. I want to choose what I want to do whenever I want to do it, and I want to be a complete individual. But we aren't individuals. Socially, we are not. We're pack animals. We love human contact, even when we don't like it. We brag about the human contact we don't like. I'm looking at you, emos and goths that hang out together, right? Hey, this is our symbol of being individual, and we all are going to present ourselves as being individual. During the 90s, being a goth was a big thing. I'm looking at you, Vampire the Masquerade and White Wolf Games, and how, if there was a way that was affordable, if the cost, wasn't so expensive, and when I say the cost, I'm not talking money, I'm talking about what you have to give up to get it, how many of these people would become real vampires or werewolves or beings of darkness, right? Like, living off of drinking the blood of others. What if that was just a hemophagic injection you could get that cost $1,000? Or what if the only cost you had to give up was not being able to walk in the sunlight any longer? Some people would be like, I didn't like daylight anyway, right? I mean, there is a cost that people that can give up in their lives, and that cost, um, all I need from you is your devotion and loyalty. All I need from you is 101 years of your service. And guess what? It won't last that long. You've got a cortical stack. So what? You served me for 101 years. That's the contract. The only cost is that you're going to be on a starship heading out into the Oort cloud. There are lots of things. There are lots of costs people will pay, cutting off their friends and family to achieve the goal of perfection. And even if that goal of perfection is temporary, I bring to you being a fashion model. Being a beautiful person is a temporary thing. Being the top of any sport is temporary. Now, there are some sports you can have a longer career than others, but everyone knows that it's very rare for people to have very long careers in any kind of athletic, physical, highly physical enterprise, whether it's a police officer or a soldier, even, rather than many of the major sports around the world, from football to uh, to rugby or something like, golf even has a long arc to it, but even that, you can't do that forever. And so there are lots of people who climb mountains and bicycle and deep sea dive and all these kind of things, and at some point that's going to end. So even temporary perfection, people are like, hey, I've reached the pinnacle of what I could do. I've run the farthest. I am the fastest. I am the strongest. Strongman competitions are a big thing, in a certain culture. How long can you power lift before you break something, before you twist something, before all those calories you're eating destroy your body? And people are like, hey, I'm willing to do it to achieve an ultimate goal. And how many to it? Andrew Martin's like, I'm not a goth, and I'll do it. Vampire hemophagic injection? Hell's yes. Let me attach the walls, drink blood, and crawl, turn into a bat. Hell's yes. Andrew Martin says, I already burn under the sun, so a little more is not that bad. Exactly. And I think let's get to some story ideas, because we've been talking in and around it, but we do want to talk about tabletop RPGs. And so I think this is one where you get a lot of MacGuffins in it, right? Where finding the PCs might have to go after, corrupt, steal, or prevent the theft of a thing that perfects or disrupts a perfection. So, for example, that hemophagic injection that people are trying to take on the streets, maybe the player characters need to get it, corrupt it, steal it, or there's a new blend or something done in a lab somewhere by some street level guerrilla chemist or something that they need to get, or maybe a corporation is developing new morphs for people to sleeve into, and when they re-sleeve into them, it's the lime skin green body that has 4 arms that allows you to do more work than before. It's the TV commercial. Become more effective, less sleep. Just sleeve into this body at the earliest convenience, and more people are falling behind in the corporate capitalist system if they don't sleeve into that new lime green 4-armed morph to get more things done, because you know maybe you're just not working hard enough. I mean, all your friends are lime green. Why aren't you lime green? You know, and maybe the player characters have to navigate their way through this world. The longer they stay, the more these superhumans are in and around them. That would be pretty interesting to have a habitat filled with superhumans that all seem the same, and the PCs need to figure out how to do it. And of course, listen, there's going to be a PC who's like, "Ooh, can I steal? Can I steal the blueprints for that morph? I would, even though we destroyed the habitat, I'd like to be one of those morphs." And they're like, "Sure." I mean, heck, every the fight between individualism and collectivism has always been a battle, and maybe there is even the horrors of unmitigated individualism, right? Like, I know that I am influenced by the things around me, and those influences are social, whether it's the language I speak, the clothing I wear, uh, the way we interact with each other socially. Um, uh, I mean, I'm part of geek culture, and I want to be part of that culture. So I try to fit into that culture because I feel comfortable there. But on the when you are an individual and you try to stand out as an individual, sometimes you are left on an island of your own making. People look at you like, "Why do you have those opinions?" Today, I'm not going to delve into this deeply at all, but dare I say, you better watch out for ec- your own political desires, because there are political extremists in no matter what side of a political debate you're on. Because dare I say, you're going to be left out in the cold if you somehow disagree in any small way with the political group that you identify with, right? You, left, right, red, blue, doesn't matter. You could like, I believe 99% of everything except for this other part. Like, aren't you taking that a little too far? And those people are going to look at you like, you're not part of us. You're not the collective. And so even on a physical level, you know, "Oh, what's the matter? Already tired? You've been up for 3 days and now you're getting tired. Boo hoo. Ooh, look at you. You can't stay up for 72 hours. You need sleep." Well, we're gonna have to leave you behind because you can't keep up with the rest of us. You know, that may be a thing. There might even be people who can't afford the what it takes, and so there's going to be two levels. I go back to, I've got to bring up the movie. I know it's been floating around, and I was hoping not to because I always do this, but the movie Gattaca, a a movie where the genetically superior have a higher status than the genetically inferior. And they don't even bother to check your credentials. They're just like, blood test. Yeah, you're a 98 percentile. Yeah, you're higher level. What are you, 68? You 68 percentile. You have a 27% chance of dying from heart failure at the age of 33. Yeah, we're not going to hire you. Sorry, you don't have that perfection inside of you. And so that might be how a society has been manipulated, where you have these underground people who just can't leave, they can't get anywhere. It's difficult for them to scramble to the upper reaches of those who are perfect, who um, that is a fear we have in our own society with AI, right? Like, it is not just that the singularity will create an AI that is not only just as intelligent as human beings, but far more intelligent. But when these technologies exist, who has them, who doesn't have them? And the the pace at which someone is able to become more brilliant and more effective and produce more work and output versus those who cannot might start to spread so much further that the ones at the bottom can't reach the ones at the top. Like for example, today people think it's easy, like, "Oh, truck drivers, you're going to disappear because we're going to have self-driving trucks. All you need to do is become a computer programmer, get with the program," right? It's like, yeah, it's not very easy to do. Now, imagine, if you will, okay, computer programmers, you're going to have to put this computer implant in your brain to keep up with the how fast things are moving. And the computer programmers are like, that that implant costs like $1.5 million. I can't afford that. Oh well, you're going to be left behind because if you don't have a direct, interface into a computer system and you're still typing, you're not going to work out too well. And you're like, I can't afford that. I literally can't afford that. And you're like, well, maybe you're just not trying hard enough. Maybe you should take out a loan. And you're like, take out a loan? I can't afford to pay back $1.5 million loan. I'm looking at you, college. Right? How much does it cost to achieve a perfect life? And so the people who hold the keys to that, the golden keys, maybe there are virtual realities of utopias that exist, and they only allow certain people into the utopia. And all you need to do is just a few things to be let the golden key to be plugged into the utopia. And what is that utopia? Is it addictive? Is it a place that you can leave if you wanted to? Or is a utopia, virtual reality, something that we would want to get into? A lot of us do, right? We work, but part of us working, our society of working, is to get to the level where we can essentially put our feet up, put our hands back, and go, I've worked hard to achieve this. I'm now retired. Right? That's the goal. What if you can get that? That's what some people feel universal basic income might make our society perfect. If if you didn't have to work, what would you do? And then would if the thing you always wanted to do you could do without limitation, would that then be the new work? Right? Like, would that be the new value in what you do? And sure, there are people who are against like a universal basic income. Like, for example, in transhumanism, especially in the eclipse phase, and the people that live in the upper skies of the world of altered carbon and such, the Methuselahs, they're so rich that they don't have to do anything, so they come up with things to do. They're bored, even. Um, but would a society, like, for example, there are people today who are like, what's a big trend on YouTube? Watching reaction videos, right? Watching things and reacting to them. That is a job now. People get they have Patreons that people attach to. They get super chats that they do. What I'm doing now is kind of a weird ish kind of a job. Maybe in the future we might not call it jobs, but maybe people do things that other people enjoy and support them in what they do. Maybe there's an old lady that just gardens, and other people just want to watch her garden. She talks about her garden, and it's peaceful to watch her garden, and that's it. And that's how she supports herself. Why? Because we want to see her garden grow, and we want to take ideas from her garden, and we just want a picture in the background of this living image of this garden, this beautiful garden. Butterflies and bees and someone tending the garden and the green thumb. And oh, the old lady, she got sick. You know what? I'm going to give money to her because we want her to get better, because we want her to be in that garden, right? That might be, is that the epitome of a universal basic income? Or is it more like Wally with everybody sitting in chairs? And that's perfection, right? Just bloated, bloated like a marshmallow with just like this vestigial hands and feet sticking out of this big blob of a thing, and little tubes that you just reach over to drink, and then drink something else, maybe something stuck into your navel and your umbilical cord, just injecting pleasure um, directly into the body, like, I'm just going to sit back and let the machines take care of me. Yes, I want to be a human battery for the machines. Why not? If that's just pure pleasure, I'm perfect. I feel like I'm in a perfect zone. Although this could be turn out to be quite nasty, especially when you have, especially people in the streets living in the gutter, peeing and shitting on themselves while they're plugged into this utopia, and the desire of them plugged into this utopia where they are they are perfectly coiffed in a utopia because they know that the minute they unplug, they're going to have to see reality. And those places might even be so overclocked that their death might be imminent, but they can live a lifetime or multiple lifetimes in the span of time that it takes for them to die off in a back alley in the next couple of weeks, right? As they die from infection and dysentery and abuse and such. These utopia places that you could plug your brain into, these virtual realities might have time limits on them. Someone somewhere is going to turn it into a business and sell it. And much like a corporation selling you an exercise program or a drug dealer selling you the perfect drug, maybe the danger in getting to what perfection is where the danger is, not the perfection itself. So player characters might have to find individuals that have been lost, like, please go get my son or daughter on us from the streets. Or there is a rumor that there is a morph that maybe perfection hasn't been reached. Like, the closer they try to make a morph perfect that you could sleeve into, the greater chance it's going to have some kind of other disability. Like, maybe no one's been able to break the code, but there's rumors that a scientist did it, that a scientist made the strongest, fastest, most enduring, invulnerable, high nanotech healing, adrenal gland boosting, brain uh, analysis. I don't know what we call it, neurochemical enhanced, blah blah blah. Add all the increased mitochondriac. I don't know. I'm pulling shit out of my ass because I'm an armchair individual. I'm not very smart, but you get my point. And maybe there's a major corporation that wants to send out mercenaries. Like, ooh, we need to get this person, and A, make sure they take this off the market, and B, get it for ourselves. And so maybe it's just a rumor. Maybe it doesn't exist. But the fact that there's a rumor that exists starts making different factions want to go after it. Maybe maybe people think the PCs have it, or maybe the PCs hear rumor of it and they're like, we need to go after it before the major corporation hears about it. And oh, damn it, they did hear about it. Okay, let's go, because this is a game changer. Even in Altered Carbon, that spans many more years than Eclipse phase, hundreds of years, as well as farther star systems. But in Eclipse phase, there are the Pandora gates. You go off to other planets. And so maybe, just maybe, someone finds something on an alien planet, a code, a message, an artifact or something. And maybe that's the key that unlocks humanity evolving to something of a perfection that we haven't realized. But maybe it's something, hey, 6 degrees of Cthulhu there, Gaster, Two Soul. So yeah, maybe that's the thing that is the ingredient that causes us to become better, greater, stronger, but maybe we're no longer human at that point and we become our own aliens. So anyway, guys, thank you very much for joining me. I know I went all over the place in this in this Perfection Incorporated. I'm sure we could have we could have boiled down to something that's like even more, even has more detail and whatnot. But thank you very much for joining me. Please like, share, subscribe to the channel. Join here live on YouTube. We go live on YouTube, simulcast as well on Twitch and our own Discord server. At least the audio is punched out into the Discord server. So that being said, I, of course, am a contributing writer to Critical Hit Publishing. Check Critical Hit Publishing out on Drive-Thru RPG. My little babies in cinematic environments, so check those out as well. Look up some reviews on YouTube about them, and of course, please check out all the archives on the channel. There are some archives on Twitch, but there's a huge hundreds of hours on YouTube as well, so check that out. Guys, thank you very much for joining me. Have a great one. Have a great weekend. I'll see you later. Bye. Thank you. Do